So yeah, share your project.
So let me start with the name of the project is called ChatterKB.
Okay.
So think of the GPTs that you can create, custom GPTs you can create in OpenAI's ChatGPT, except take it way further. In other words, create as many documents as you want. Imagine putting your newsletters, imagine putting in maybe books that you've written, things that you have a whole full knowledge base of, and being able to monetize it or give it away for free as a lead magnet.
Hmm.
So imagine being able to have like Zaid's thoughts, and you
Hmm.
have all of this content that people would have to look up on Twitter or look up on things that you give away for free, but you'd have it in one place and you could just ask Zaid's thoughts. Hey, what do you think about this? Or what are your thoughts on building a landing page? Or how should somebody express themselves to sell their products? Like what is it? Or is this a good idea that I have? What do you
Hmm.
think about it?
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that I'm building with ChatterKB. This branded view, because that's the other thing. It's not just like a GPT that OpenAI would have. This is a branded view. This is something where you can skin it, make it look
Hmm.
like your own thing, even tell it to speak in a certain way so that you can have a nice like conversation. It almost feels like it's real.
Yeah.
So we were talking the other day, and one of the things that you mentioned was like, what if Naval
Hmm.
had this type of thing, and he had all of that information, all of the articles he's written,
Hmm.
everything that he put right in there, and you could just query it and ask it. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But again, that would be cool for free, cool to be able to have it as something that you would share with people.
Hmm.
The cool thing about this is that you can do it for free. You can do it as a exclusive thing where you only let certain people in and you can go ahead and add whoever you want in there. Or what we're working on now is how can I make it for pay, right? So that now I have a much better, deeper integrated situation. So taking a little bit of a step back, how this came about was that I used to work for an advertising agency and they
Hmm.
were trying to do tech. And they brought me in as a head of product for tech, and we were working on different things. When I left, they called me back and said, hey, I would love to have a knowledge base that I could share with high premium customers
Clients.
that we have
Yeah.
as a they do like round tables, they do all these things to bring people in, but we want it branded and we want it behind some sort of wall because we don't want
Hmm.
everybody to have access to it. So that got me thinking, and I thought, wow, but what could this do to people who have newsletters, who write books as lead magnets, who basically have this just knowledge in general, and you want to go ahead and share that knowledge. But part of sharing that knowledge is yeah, you give a lot of things away for free because you want people to understand that. But then with AI, now you have the ability to not only take that, but maybe you can use that to help people build things or do other things where as a subscription model, it would be helpful.
You
So
said
now
like
if I'm
something interesting about the Twitter thing. Like,
Mhm.
does it integrate with that? Like that'll be great because I know Twitter has an export feature. So
But
can I
no,
just take that export and put it in there?
if you can export it, you can put it in there. Yes. All it is
Mm.
files. So think of it that way. Like this is basically you upload any file that you want. So you could have written something that was in one file or in another. It doesn't really matter. It could be a transcript from a YouTube. Like for example, the agency that I was talking to,
Yeah.
one of the things they want to do is go through their YouTube videos and pull out the transcripts and just
Uh,
pop them in. And then that's the knowledge that we pull from. So
this sounds like a good service. Like, have you thought of that as a service rather than just a
I haven't because a lot of people are already doing similar things. So from a service perspective, you're thinking about this as RAG as a service. So retrieval augmented
yeah.
generations, right? So basically you're taking, instead of having to train an LLM, you're taking portions of other pieces of information that you have, attaching
Mm.
it to it at the context and giving it to them so that I can figure it out, right?
Mm.
From a lay perspective, a non-techie perspective, it's like, how can I put my information into the LLM so I could actually understand what's going on?
Mm.
That kind of stuff with APIs, plenty of people are doing that. I'm not too worried about that. Whether they're doing it well or not, that's a whole different story. But this idea is more of a how can I get I'm trying to think beyond tech. Like a lot of people right now with AI
Mm.
are like, this is a very techie thing that I can do to help somebody solve a problem, but they're
Mm.
still coming about it from a tech perspective. You with Caravan Notes? less of that. I see that more of
Hmm.
a I'm focusing on writers.
Hmm.
Whereas I see other people, people who are doing like agents and other things, they're still looking at it from a really techie perspective. I'm trying to say, forget the techie. I want to know what would be useful for me if I were not technical to just help me do my work on a regular
But what
basis.
is that
Well,
target for you? Like who's that target that you'd like to acquire, right? Because um
so
having clarity with that is gonna unlock, first of all, who you're gonna talk to, and then that will kind of guide the product roadmap, especially initially. Have you
so
thought
so
about that? Like, have
the
you thought about like advertising agencies or something like that? Or
the initial idea for the product was a little different, and we looked at that as well,
Mhm.
where it was
that
actually
that product is killer. That's crazy. But you know,
so
yeah.
so I got two products, right? A good
Mhm.
problem to have, right? Try to figure out which one's the best one. But and actually I stumbled upon this trying to promote the other one, right? Like
Mhm.
to me, it was a matter of can you create knowledge bases that are AI based and can you share reports off of that knowledge base? And that really was what I wanted to do. And
Yeah.
then I started talking to that agency and they said, well, hey, if we had this whole like brand persona of us as a chat, how can we monetize that? How can we make that
But
something a little
the
better?
first
So it's
idea,
kind of like,
do you want to share the first idea a
sure,
little bit,
sure,
or should I share it and then we just discuss it?
however you
Uh,
want. Go
yeah,
ahead.
because the first idea you had was, add all your knowledge, especially number knowledge, right? They
Hmm.
connect your statistics of your business or whatever, and then you query that data to come up with like dashboards, right? Like the metrics that you care about.
Hmm.
And with that, I see a huge opportunity because, for example, my case, right? I have post hoc, and post hoc collects all this data, right? But for me to make sense of that data is going to take a lot of education, right? So if I can have a conversation with that data and say, hey, what I care about is ABCD, and then your product figures out the best data sources, creates a metric, explains that metric, and I have that as kind of like a, even if I want to take that and then make my own dashboard, right?
Hmm.
Having the ability to do that, I feel like has a lot of business value in that.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I mean, the whole purpose of what I was looking at it, at least the perspective that I had,
mhm,
was, hey, what if I were Looker but without having to deal with integrating that? Because that's a
mhm,
pain in the butt, right? Like
mhm,
integrating with databases and APIs and all of that. I just want to be able to chat with some data. My MVP was upload your files. We'll chat with those files. As people start using it and like it, then I would move to like Google Drive and to Notion and to any other API that I could connect to so that you can just
yeah.
go ahead and query that. And maybe it's real time. I mean, we'd love to make it real time, but maybe it just on a regular basis is updating as you update those documents and we have that information there because there is
Yeah, it
a
depends.
cost to
It
that, right?
depends on the
So,
data source, right? Like I can see
right,
some cracked out people who might see this and say, I want to connect it to the stock market, right?
right.
Uh, and I think it's a worthy project, to be honest. Like even the stock market use case,
Hmm.
figuring out how to do that real time and have kind of what we chatted about in the DMs, where it's like it it's kind of your thinking step and then creates all the connections and whatever, and then it creates that kind of component where you can plug it in wherever you want, and that component has in it all the logic, all the API calls, all the whatever to kind of coordinate and come up with that number. That is just like a killer use case. Like I had a friend, his name's Nathan on X, and he built something cool, but I feel like he stopped building it. But what he did was you go to any data point, like let's say you go to your whatever Stripe dashboard, you take a screenshot using his app, and then you can kind of piece together all these screenshots in one kind of infinite canvas kind of situation. And those are all not real time, but kind of like what you did, where you press a refresh button and it updates to the latest thing. he did something like that, and that was cool. But I feel like this is cooler, right? If you don't need even the screenshot, you can just copy and paste the URL or something, or I don't know how the linking happens, but just linking it with auth, and then being able to query all that data, mix and match. Maybe you need Mixpanel, maybe you need to bring in PostHub, maybe you need to bring in your Stripe, maybe you need to bring in all of these things, connect them all, and then you can query everything together. That is killer product. And that's
Yeah,
your
that's
vision.
killer.
Like it's not like
Yeah,
I'm
that's the
coming up
idea.
like that is your vision. That is your
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, yeah.
But right now I feel like you have this crossroads where it's like, do I go after the knowledge thing or the thing? Like let's say, like what would your question be to the community? And I'll try to go source some answers for you. But what is like,
So
yeah.
the first one is, which one sounds like something you would probably subscribe to, like as
Mhm.
part of the community? Like which one sounds better? Is it the one where I brand myself, I sell my knowledge, where I share my knowledge and I'm able to provide that? Or is it, hey, I want to be able to consume as much data that's my data as possible, whether it comes from other sources like Notion or databases or wherever,
Mhm.
and be able to query and build reports on it? Now, keep in mind, what I'm trying to, when Said says the thing about building reports, the one thing you can't visualize is the important part, which is what you do is that you talk to it like you would with GPT, but we give you some like menus and different ways of saying create a widget off of the data that you got, right? So
Mhm.
if you said something like, hey, what's the return on ad spend, right? Like for an
Yeah.
ad, ROAS. I
Yeah.
want the ROAS, the best ROAS that, and which channel and what was the best ROAS that you had,
Yeah.
right? All of a sudden, I can create a little scorecard that has
Mhm.
the number and a little icon next to it, and it looks kind of pretty. And you
Yeah.
can pin that to a board. Think
Mhm.
Pinterest in a certain way, just like boom, I pinned it to a board and it stays there. But that is now tied with whatever you had called it. Because come on, we use ChatGPT. How many times do you lose a message or have to go searching for a message? Or what was it that I was thinking of when
I
I
would
was
call
doing
it
this?
like admin dashboard and components, because the wording there, like with pinning and whatever, it's kind of not talking to the target market who would be a business user. And then
Hmm.
layer on top of that views, like you can create custom views for whatever. That product is just killer. Like for me, my advice to you is go where people spend money, and people spend
Hmm.
money on admin dashboards. They don't spend money on querying knowledge, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's true. Well,
and
that's the other thing that I see, right? Like this is an established market what we're talking about
mhm.
now, whereas the other thing's totally new, right? That's greenfield. That's completely different.
But
One
it's
of them
it's
can
never
feed the
that
other.
greenfield. It's never that greenfield. Uh, it is always a replacement, right?
Hmm.
And is this gonna replace the habit of reading books? Because that's a habit that people pay for.
Hmm.
$10 a week or however fast you read books. That is a habit people pay for. So you can theoretically say this is better than reading a book and offer a replacement, and they're going to say instead of spending the $10 here, I'm going to spend the $10 there.
Hmm.
So that's that. Is that going to happen? Have you done that? I don't think so. I don't think people want to give up the habit of reading, right? But it's so like the education, marketing, all of that is going to be crazy. Like, for example, Amazon e-commerce, it was new, but it replaced the drive to Barnes and Nobles,
Yeah, yeah,
getting the
yeah,
book.
yeah, yeah.
So you got to think about it as replacement, not as totally new. There's nothing totally new anybody's doing, and if there is, no one's gonna do it or gonna pay for it, right? Like it might be
But
just a concoction.
you have a perfect example, but that's a good example about the books. Okay,
Hmm.
more than I think the number is less than 10% of the people actually read through a whole book, right? Most people just start, but some people who are avid readers, like I'm more of a Audible guy, right? Like I like to listen to books. Like I'll be
Hmm.
doing certain things and listening to books the whole way through. But people who sit down and read don't tend to do it. And then sometimes you want to use it as reference, right? Like what was it that I heard over here and where it was? that's where this kind of thing I think has an
But
interesting
no one
has
pays for
legs, right?
reference. That's what I'm trying to say. Is no one is paying for reference. So thinking about that experience, that customer journey, is going to
Hmm.
inform that product. Like for example, let's say you create an Audible alternative where
Hmm.
after every chapter, the book talks back, says, "Hey, did you understand the chapter? How did you work?" And there's this interactive component, like someone's driving. Now the drive is not that boring. They listen to a chapter and then they can have a conversation with the chapter. And,
Right.
like that is an experience that can be easily sold. But just reference or just whatever, like the things you're saying, do people pay for that? And maybe they do. Maybe you go out there, like I'm not, I don't
No,
know
yeah.
all the markets and all the people, right? So if you find a market, a group of people that does that, then great. But un- until then, pick, like if I was gonna pick, I'll pick the idea that I know there's money. Like I know Amplitude sells money. I know Post Hoc sells money. I know all of these things. People will pay for because they want to see their data. And if you can say, hey, instead of you coordinating all of this stuff, you
Hmm.
pay an extra $10 a month or whatever it is, and you bring your own API keys to power the engine, we're in business.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's an easy sell for them. Uh, but yeah, I'll try to figure out how to make a post just because you were the only champ who, who showed up and try to get you some stuff. But let's do some community questions together uh, before we wrap up. Our community wisdom post. All right. Praveen says he's building Maven AI or Maven AI, a blogging platform and blog aggregator. The main product is the blog aggregator. It isn't launched yet. There's too many small issues. He's fixing bugs. His biggest challenge is finding high quality blogs to put in his thing, right? So, do you have any favorite blogs that you can suggest to Praveen?
That's a hard one because I don't tend to read too many blogs other than
Mm-hmm.
like Paul Graham or somebody like
Mm-hmm.
that might be an occasional long form writer, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
um
You said you like Audible, like
yeah,
so it's not
yeah,
even,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, you're an Audible guy.
Yeah,
I
so I,
told him
I
stand
want
the fuck
some
out.
the what?
There's a
The,
blog called "Stand the Fuck Out"
yeah.
by Louis Grenier, and he's an advertising guy or something, and he just every week just firing you like in your inbox. You're like, what?
Mhm.
Uh, anyways, next one is from Matt from MX Suite. He says he helps businesses land in the inboxes, not spam. MX Suite offers email warming, unlimited sending, and deliverability tools to boost cold email success. His challenge is reaching more users who need better email deliverability. Uh, do you have any strategies for Matt where he can maybe get more users for his product?
Uh, that's a good question because I've used Apollo IO before to try to do cold calling. If he's
Mhm.
trying to compete with them,
What is Apollo
in
IO? You
LinkedIn.
explain it a
Oh,
little bit?
wait, Apollo IO. So Apollo IO lets you, it manages the automation of sending cold emails and any
Okay.
other emails that you'd like. Doesn't have to be cold. But
Hmm.
what they do have is a huge database of contact information, specifically off of LinkedIn. So
Okay.
you interact with them, you go through LinkedIn, it
Hmm.
finds the information for you. They also store it on their servers and resell it to other people so that they can say, hey, you're in this industry. Here are the people that most likely may buy. And since they already know if people replied or viewed, they have a lot of information about
Mm,
whether or not this person's going to be receptive or not receptive to that kind of thing. I don't
yeah.
think they've added AI yet. They might have. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing that I would look into because if you're able
Did it have
to
warming? Did it have these features, warming,
they
unlimited
do. They,
sending, and
it has
deliverability tools?
multiple email templates. So you start off with like, "Hi, I'm so and so, and I'm trying to do this." they help you a little bit as to how to like craft the email, but not that much. This would be way better, right? Like
No,
this would
his
take care of it.
warming. So warming is a technical email thing. Maybe that's a way for him
And maybe
to
that's
bridge
yeah.
that because it's a technical email thing where they usually when you send emails from a cold server, the receiving
Oh, I
inbox
see. I see.
says this is bullshit and puts it in spam.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what they do is they have, I think, I don't know, some receivers where they can send it to and give that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
server
Yeah,
a
no, no,
little
no. I don't know if they
reputation.
do that. They don't do that. They let you pick different domains. Like if you wanted to have, you know, like a slightly different domain so that you aren't already spammed or something like
Mhm.
that, you can change who it's coming from
Okay.
for your campaign. But I don't know about warming. I don't think they have warming.
Yeah.
I don't know though.
So maybe that's his because I told him his problem is a complete solution problem where it's like no one's looking for that. They're looking for what you're saying, where
Yeah.
it's like I want a bunch of leads that I can cold email and like so maybe building a database like that, adding it to that, and then pitching it as a cold email complete solution, right? Like not all warming and deliverability and don't land in the inbox. I think all of that is very alienating to anybody who wants to hit that. So yeah, my advice for Matt is you need strategies to acquire customers. You need to think about the customer life cycle uh, before they become a customer. That 5 years before you become a customer, that education to get them to that point where they want that has to come from a point where I know nothing about this industry. Teach me about this industry and finding that pitch that can do a lot of heavy lifting like that, right? Uh, Max says he's building a practice exam generator for students. Generating exams takes quite long. How do you feed large amounts of user content into an API? Perfect person to ask. So he's like, how do you feed large amounts of user content into an API call if you have a token limit? Currently, I have
Yeah.
a loop that breaks the content into chunks and makes requests. So
All right. So you gotta
technical
look.
question. Yeah.
You got to look into RAG. Okay, so
Hmm.
there are other options, but RAG basically is RAG and vector embedding. So
Hmm.
vector embedding is a fancy way of saying that you use a AI LLM to create IDs like they do for their weights and everything that they do in
Hmm.
LLM that map to words or phrases that are similar, right? So it's like
Hmm.
a similarity thing. Like how similar is yard from grass? It's going to be
Hmm.
relatively similar. And so what ends up happening is that you basically have to process all those tests, all the information, like if it's documents, right?
Hmm.
And then run it through that embedding process and create those numbers that match everything up. Now, that's very technical. There's an
Hmm.
easier way of
But
doing
what
it.
is the chunking process? Like, have you found a certain chunk size that is good for embeddings?
It depends. It depends on what you're doing for the embedding. Like the model that you're using is going to have a certain size that it's going to be able to process, and that'll be like 1,000 or
Since you
1024
since
tokens.
you've done this, let me ask you
Mhm.
my RAG and embeddings questions. Because
Sure.
I kind of ventured into it until I realized for my use case the context window is good enough.
Hmm.
Uh, but when I saw it, it was like what you have to do is break up your writing into
Hmm.
chunks
Hmm.
that you want to retrieve later to put selectively in the context window.
Right. Right.
And instead of putting that whole thing, right? But the chunk size had like for writing, right? A chunk size could be a paragraph. Like that would be a good
Hmm.
embedding because it's semantically every paragraph should be cohesive in terms of uh, domain or in case of the relevance of things together, meanings. Is that a good understanding of it?
It's a good understanding of it. Just keep in mind though that the chunk sizes. you don't have to be perfect. You just need to make sure that a concept is in that chunk
Mhm.
because it could be like it could be a paragraph, it could be a sentence, it could be a certain place where it makes sense to break it up because all you're really trying to do is have that embedding model figure
Mhm.
out the numbers so that it can start pulling out some pieces for you, and then you can go ahead and give it as context to the thing.
Mhm.
So, and you're going to get more than you think because it's not like you're getting. Okay, so there's this concept called K nearest neighbors, and it kind
Mhm.
of figures out how close. Think of okay, so do you know what a standard distribution
Mhm.
curve looks like? Like the meme that's out there that's the low end guys are saying,
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
like
yeah. The
black
midway
coffee,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
like and the one in the middle is like
Uh-huh.
totally like, right?
Yeah,
So
that
same
bell curve,
thing,
like
that
normal
bell curve, right?
distribution. Yeah.
Exactly. So you're basically trying to find the closest things that match, and
Mhm.
then the only limit you have is how many tokens you can send to the LLM, right?
Mhm.
So you can say, find me the closest things that match this. The LLM, once you pull that in from a database, you're going to have a certain amount of text, right? You're going to have to limit it to the tokens that you're allowed to send in, and obviously
Mhm.
you have other things that are involved there, like the prompt itself. All of that counts as the tokens. But you limit that and then you send it over to the LM to do things. But the hard part is finding the text. And that's where a vector store helps because
Mhm.
you're taking the text, breaking it up however you feel that's comfortable to break up. It could be very unstructured,
Mhm.
and you just take wherever it cuts off and you just go ahead and say put it in there, or it could be very very structured. And again, the embedding model is going to generate that
The
distribution
retrieval.
of
It's
numbers.
it's the search.
Eh,
It's bringing in
yeah,
that.
it's just a search.
Yeah.
It's like a map. It's like a dictionary for
But then how
developers.
do you piece it
It's a
together? Like
hash table.
let's say it finds the closest 50 neighbors, right?
Yeah,
To
yeah.
whatever the input is. And then those chunks are like separated from around multiple documents and stuff, right? How do you string them together before you hit it to the prompt? Like how,
Well,
yeah.
first of all, you're going to have a certain like the context that you're pulling off because you're
Mhm.
basically saying, okay, find me that chunk that has the information that I need. So it should already have the context in there. If it doesn't have that context in there, keep in mind that you might also end up with the chunk that's closest to it because of the distribution.
Mhm.
The IDs are going to be similar because you were talking about something before, you're talking about something after. That should be logically chunked already for you.
Yeah.
But again, there's different ways of approaching that. You could say, if I find any question, like in this person's example, if I find any question that falls within a specific test, then include the whole text and try to find the whole test that he has and,
Okay, so
and
then
try
there's
to
just
include it in
it's
the
just
content.
coding, back to coding, however you think
But
the taste is.
it's your logic, exactly.
Mhm.
It's your logic. You could either do it the standard way, but anyway, a way to point them to something that might help is look
Mhm.
at LangChain.
Okay.
LangChain has a lot of support for that. Like they
Yeah.
help you do things for like they have document readers where you
Mhm.
can go ahead and actually not document readers that somebody came up with out there, document readers that were come up by like Microsoft or Google for Google Docs
Yes.
and for all of that. So you have standardized ways of getting this information.
Yeah.
But again, at the end, you have to make the determination based on the information you got back as to what to do. And by the way, a typical vector store has the chunk, but it also has the reference to the document or whatever
Mhm.
it is that you uploaded. So it's up to you to decide what to do with the data you got in. It's just pointing you in the right direction as much as possible.
Uh,
So one of the things, for example, like on the stuff that I'm doing, one of the things I suggest is break up your documents into logical pieces so that it's easier for us to chunk it up because we don't know the context that you're in. And if you put one huge document, we may chop it up in places that might not be necessarily the best. So the smaller
absolutely.
you make it, the easier it is for the system to figure it out, give it a good name on the file, do stuff like that where we can
Yeah, help it out.
kind of help it out. Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's such a I'm adding like some some stuff for my notes because that's great. The LangChain thing where you can kind of just dump in a PDF or CSV or whatever and it can understand it.
And
And you'd link
it's
that
pretty
with
cool.
tools, like if it's OpenAI, it's like you have OpenAI use a tool to read that, or
Yeah, so this is so
yeah.
totally separate than an OpenAI thing. Like you need to have an
Mhm.
embedding model.
Not
That's the
embeddings,
only
just the
other.
tools, these readers and stuff.
Yeah, well, you just need to have code that does that.
Uh,
Python, they're heavy on the Python
mhm.
side. So again, those documents are document readers. They'll take your text. it gets complicated, and like that's the secret sauce on the stuff that we did with numbers. It gets complicated with something like a table, right? Because you have to also understand how the LLM is going to read that information. So it's really important. And if you're doing something like a test, depending on what you're doing, if you're doing very text-oriented tests, you're pretty good. If you're going to do number-oriented and math, you got to be very careful. LLMs suck at math,
At
like
best.
hard. Like they're really bad at math.
Uh,
So you need to kind of figure out what it is that you're trying to do. And if you have a specific answer set, be very verbose. Once you like parse the
mhm.
thing, be very verbose about what you're looking for. And it will figure it out, but you have to give it context. It's like how HTML has context around the divs and the paragraphs and the anchors and everything that you have in there. It's a
Yeah,
context so that they know how to read it. LLMs need that. So that's important.
yeah, that is an unexplored territory, and as soon as someone structures that, it'll be very useful. All right. Our friend Santosh is saying he's building an agency for rapid app development using a no-code and low-code technologies, including FOSS. You know what that is?
No.
Okay, for scaling. I don't know what that is. He wants to find leads for services. Uh, he needs help reaching out to real estate agents, financial advisors for loans, insurance, and investments, and also lawyers. So how would he reach out to these uh, targets, all those three targets, secretly six targets, with an agency offering for rapid app development using no code and low code?
So, okay. The real estate guys are the easiest ones. You sign
Uh,
up to their emails and you spam them back. If they spam
Hey,
you, you spam them back
there we
and ask
go.
them until somebody finds because they're interested in reading every email they get. So
Hmm.
you will get a higher cold call like response from something like that.
I like so we mix it together because I told them choose one. The three
Okay.
targets have very different needs,
Yes.
and you can't, build for all those three realistically. But yeah, if you can find a workflow that real estate agents like and have this no code custom solution for them, and you reach out, like you're saying, yeah,
Yeah, you'll
you'll
get
crush
them.
that. All right. Evo is building Pizza Hub, which is a productivity app that makes focus feel fun. It's like a gamified productivity system. He is getting 3+ new users every day organically without posting on Reddit. Uh, oh no, he wants that, I guess. Either he wants that or he's doing that without posting. Uh, what's worked for you best to grow steadily on social media? All right. Yeah, he wants consistent organic stuff without relying on this kind of like viral boost, product hunt launch, all these, kind of virality things. Uh, do you have like a strategy maybe? Like if you think like let me explain his thing a little more because it's productivity just sounds nuts. But what he does is like you can compete on Pomodoro timers or whatever timer focus strategy you like. So like you and a group can like challenge each other on who crushes more Pomodoro timers in a day or something like that.
That's
So
cool.
can you think of like a content strategy for our friend Ebo?
I don't know. That's a hard one for me because you have to find the people who want to do that, but like
Yeah. I told him,
yeah, I can't think of anything.
yeah, sometimes these things are hard, especially for people who like build, they're like, I don't know what kind of content strategy to come up with. But I told him he should do something like my Feedback Friday, where he
Hmm,
says, hey, share your focus process and I'll give you 3 tips to improve or something like that. Uh, and that just gives exposure to him. And if he has, the thing linked in his account or whatever, it is kind of indirect way to kind of get eyeballs, get that loop going, right? Uh, especially, yeah, the landing page being his profile has to be optimized to kind of get people clicking that link, right?
He could also simulate a whole like contest on Twitter, right? Like on X. Just
Such a good one.
just have like one post and say, okay, who's joining me on doing this? First one to reply
Hmm.
in, X amount of time with proof that you did what you did. Done. We're good.
I love that.
Maybe something like that.
Such a good idea. Exactly. And it makes it easy onboarding. Like click the link to
Mm,
start competing using this because
mm.
this is the only source of truth. Such a good idea. Yeah, and then it can be interactive on the leaderboard. Like, oh, he finished one. He finished one. Great idea. Love that. Stewart. All right. Stewart is building a SaaS company, leads database for marketers. My channel is trying to get more free signups to convert to pay. How have you used an onboarding drip to convert free to pay? So he's thinking basically, how do you activate users? Like if you have a bunch of people, uh, signing up for a leads database, I guess the free one is limited and the paid one is bigger.
I would assume.
Uh, how would you activate these leads uh, if you had that challenge to solve?
To me, leads is such a hard thing because if you're not going to keep that thing up to date, like if it's not going to
Hmm.
update very frequently, then I can see people just showing up, pulling down whatever they can, and then leaving, right? So your problem is
Hmm.
not just activating. You can activate just by saying, hey, you only get like 2 or 3 leads and you have to sign up after that, and then you get
Hmm.
access to whatever number you want to
Hmm.
have. But there's a lot of a chance that the people will just scrape whatever they have, take it, and leave. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things is how do you keep that fresh and wanting it to become when you create products and services, you should always be striving to make it a utility. Like if it was
Hmm.
the water or electricity in your company, regardless of what it is,
Hmm.
because those are the kind of things that we take for granted and we keep using and we don't
Hmm.
care. Like, and also it makes it hard for us to leave. Something like this with leads, if you were able to give me steady leads on a regular basis that I don't have to constantly go after,
Yeah.
man, you got me. Because if
Yeah.
I
Crush
do
it.
my math and I say 1 out of every 100 I'm gonna land and it's gonna be this much, and this is how much it represents to me, then God, this is great. This is fantastic. I don't have to worry about it. But
I
if it's
agree.
something that I have to do scrape and it doesn't update frequently enough, then that'll be more of a challenge because then you're expecting
100%.
somebody your LTV is going to be 1 month, one sign
Yeah.
up gone, one sign up
100%.
gone.
Yeah, exactly. For Stewart, I think you're right. The best thing he can do is make that value proposition more juicy, right? Just the database is not that juicy. But if you have these extra standard operating like, hey, we're enriching these every week, new leads, and guess what? You can come in, give me a profile, and I'll send you higher likely leads and all of that. Like having it like a no-brainer, where like you can guarantee me every 100 leads you send, I can land one. Yeah, 100%. I like that. All right, Symmetry Sid says he's building immutable preservation of legacy platform using blockchain technology. How many signups can you get in 30 days times? What is the method you found that worked with getting users on your platform? I guess it's the universal your. Um, but yeah, he's building a legacy platform. So basically, it's like a family tree. It's not 23andMe, it's the other one with the family tree thing, but it's immune.
Ancestry,
What is it? Ancestry. Yeah.
ancestry, yeah.
I think it's ancestry.com, but on the blockchain, like it's immutable.
Okay.
How would you get 100 users in 30 days for that?
I I have to understand what problem that's really solving, other than the
I told them the
than
same
making
thing.
sure that
Yeah.
because I don't know what problem it's solving. It's that it's cool, it's on the blockchain, that it's immutable. That's great, but
But what is the utility in that? Yeah, I told them the same
right,
thing. I'm
why?
like, bro, just because it's on the blockchain, like what is the utility of having a family tree immutable? Like I understand why financial transactions need to be immutable, but a family tree being immutable. All right. Best app to lose weight. Local first.
Mhm.
That's so funny. Just fast. That's the best app to lose weight. Go on a starvation diet.
That works.
Anyways, Frank, thank you so much for joining.
Hey, no problem.
Super appreciate being a good sport. Uh, and yeah, do you have any questions? Anything you want to ask before we wrap up?
Um, no, not like no, no. I'm good. I'm here. I'll try to join as many times as I
Thank
can
you. I
on
really
Fridays
appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
and help. And anybody who wants, like, who's watching this or whatever, if you have any questions, I've done product and engineering for many, many graveyard years.
Cool.
So hey, feel free
Yeah,
to tap
he's your
me.
man. He'll show you his product. It's really cool too. If you should do demo for demo. You demo me your product, I'll demo you your product.
That sounds like a good idea.
All right, bro. Thank you so much.
All
Take
right,
care.
cool. Peace,
All right.
guys. Bye.
Peace.